There is a quiet revolution that begins not with banners, nor speeches, nor force. It begins in the smallest of moments, when a heart chooses to be kind, when a mind chooses to be still, when a soul chooses to see the world not through the lens of anger or fear, but through the gentle clarity of compassion. In the teachings of the Buddha, this revolution has no battlefield, no enemies and no spoils, only peace, understanding and the profound stillness of a mind that no longer seeks to dominate, but to understand. You have felt the noise of the world, the urgency to prove yourself, the pressure to be more, to have more, to achieve what others define as success. And in that pursuit, perhaps you have also felt the emptiness that follows when the applause fades and the solitude returns. The Buddha did not offer escape from this world, but he offered a way to see it with new eyes, to live within it, not as its prisoner, but as its gentle witness. Kindness is not weakness, it is the greatest strength. It is a discipline of the highest order. In a world that rewards ego and celebrates dominance, the choice to be kind, to be still, to listen, to forgive, requires immense courage. But what flows from that choice is not defeat. It is inner clarity. It is freedom from the chains of reactivity. The Buddha taught that our suffering does not come from the world itself, but from our resistance to it, from our clinging to what must change, from our aversion to what we cannot control. But kindness dissolves that resistance. It opens the heart. It allows us to meet each moment with gentleness, not because the world is gentle, but because we are. This is the beginning of inner peace, not through the perfection of your environment, but through the transformation of your perception. When you no longer demand that life be a certain way, when you no longer need others to validate your worth, then and only then are you truly free. And in that freedom, you will find something extraordinary, a deep, immovable contentment that no circumstance can shake. The mind is a powerful creator. What it believes, it brings to life. If you believe the world is hostile, you will find enemies everywhere. But if you train your mind to see with wisdom, to observe without judgment, to meet pain with compassion, to greet joy without clinging, then your mind becomes not your tormentor, but your teacher. Belief is not blind, it is the compass of the soul. What you believe shapes what you notice, what you pursue, what you become. Believe in your own potential for kindness, for presence, for awakening, and you will begin to live in alignment with that truth. You will stop chasing and start arriving. There is no enlightenment apart from your daily life. There is no spiritual awakening that bypasses your responsibilities, your relationships, your pain. The path is not elsewhere. It is here, in how you speak to the stranger, in how you sit with your anger, in how you love. Not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Wisdom is not knowing everything. It is seeing clearly. It is knowing the difference between what is yours to change and what must be accepted. It is the willingness to be present with discomfort without needing to fix it. It is the strength to choose stillness when chaos demands a reaction. To live wisely is to live simply, to unclutter the mind from its endless demands and return, again and again, to what truly matters. This moment, this breath, this heart. And from that simplicity arises vision. Not the vision of ambition or conquest, but the vision of understanding, of interconnectedness, of compassion. True vision is not foresight, it is insight. It is the capacity to see into the heart of things, to discern the nature of reality beyond appearances. The Buddha saw suffering, but he also saw the end of suffering. He saw the fire of craving, but he also saw the water of awareness that could quench it. Purpose does not arise from success, it arises from service, from the quiet decision to offer your presence, your care, your integrity, even when no one is watching, especially then, because when you act from purpose, You no longer depend on results to justify your efforts. Your peace is not held hostage by outcome. It is rooted in intention. Discipline is not control. It is devotion. It is showing up for yourself again and again, even when the path is unclear. It is making space in your day for silence, for reflection, for the breath that connects you to life. And over time, that discipline becomes a sanctuary, a place within you that no turmoil can reach. Action is the fruit of inner alignment. When your thoughts, your words, and your deeds are in harmony, your life becomes a meditation. You no longer act out of fear or desperation, but out of clarity. Each gesture, no matter how small, becomes sacred. Gratitude is the gate. It is not a reaction to abundance. It is the awareness of abundance already present. It is the recognition that this breath, this moment, this heartbeat is enough, that nothing more is needed to feel whole. And in that wholeness, generosity is born, the desire to share, not from lack, but from fullness. Adaptability is the wisdom of water. It flows, it yields, it reshapes itself without losing its essence. To live well is not to control life, but to dance with it, to adjust with grace, to release the need for certainty and embrace the gift of presence. Resilience is not the absence of struggle. It is the refusal to let struggle define you. It is the quiet strength that says, I will begin again, that meets failure not with shame, but with compassion, that understands the deepest wounds can also become the deepest wells of wisdom. Learning never ends. The awakened mind is a curious mind. It asks not, how do I avoid pain, but what can I learn from it? It resists the illusion of arrival. It embraces the humility of not knowing, and in that humility it grows. This is the path, not a destination to be reached, but a presence to be lived, a kindness to be practiced, a wisdom to be embodied. And in walking it, you do not become someone else. You become fully, radiantly, fearlessly yourself. So let your life be your teaching. Let your stillness be your strength. Let your kindness be your power. And let your heart, wide open and unafraid, be the revolution the world so desperately needs. And so you continue, not because the path is easy, but because it is true. Because somewhere beyond the noise of desire and distraction, you have touched something real, stillness that cannot be taken, clarity that does not fade, kindness that does not demand applause. These are the jewels hidden beneath the restless surface of our minds. Each step forward is not a conquest, but a homecoming. You are not adding something new. You are remembering what was always there, your capacity to be present, to love, to see things as they are. This is not becoming better. It is becoming honest. When you practice kindness, not as a reaction, but as a way of being, you begin to rewrite the script of your life. You respond instead of react. You soften where you once hardened. You listen where you once spoke. And in that quiet, in that humility, something remarkable awakens within you. Peace without conditions. Because peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the refusal to let conflict dictate your inner state. The world will rage. People will judge. Life will unravel. But within you, a deeper truth remains untouched. The truth that your dignity is not up for negotiation, that your worth is not built on praise or performance, that your spirit, when aligned with compassion, is already whole. You see, suffering is not always loud. Often it disguises itself as control, as perfectionism, as the need to be liked. But suffering at its core is a disconnection from yourself, from others, from the present. And kindness, real kindness, is the bridge back. The bridge back to now. What does it mean to live with an awakened heart? It means you meet the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. It means you open your arms to both sorrow and joy, knowing that each has something to teach. It means you do not close when others wound you, but remain rooted in love, not for them but for yourself. You do not become passive, you become powerful. Because true power is not control, it is presence. It is the courage to face your own anger without acting it out, to feel your fear without letting it rule you, to stand in the fire of discomfort and say, I will not run. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the teacher. It shows you where you're still holding on, where the ego is still afraid. And when you lean into that discomfort with awareness, not judgment, you begin to unwind the knots that have bound you for lifetimes. You begin to see that life was never about fixing. It was about feeling, about being fully alive to every moment, pleasant, painful, or mundane, and letting it pass through you like a river, without clinging, without resistance, without turning away. This is the path of compassion, not a sentiment, but a strength. Compassion is not pity, it is the fierce resolve to love in a world that has forgotten how. It is choosing to see the humanity in others, even when they cannot see it in themselves. It is knowing that every harsh word, every cruel act is born from someone's own unhealed pain. Compassion does not excuse harm, but it understands it. And through that understanding, it transforms it. Because only when we see clearly can we respond wisely. Only when we stop judging can we start healing. And healing is not linear. It is not a straight path. It is spiral-shaped. You will revisit old wounds, old fears, again and again. Not because you are failing, but because you are deepening. Because each return brings new layers of insight, forgiveness, and letting go. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is not condoning, it is the act of reclaiming your peace, of saying, I will not carry this pain any longer, I will not let it define me, I will feel it, honor it, and release it, because I deserve to be free. And you do, you deserve to be free, not someday, now. But freedom does not mean escape, it means embodiment. It means showing up to your life, breathing into the hard moments, noticing the small joys, being awake in the ordinary. That is where life happens, not in the grand milestones, but in the subtle, sacred presence of your own attention. Your presence is your power. In a world addicted to distraction, the ability to be here, to be truly here, is revolutionary. When you give someone your full attention, you are giving them the greatest gift. The feeling that they are seen, that they matter, that they are enough. And in doing so, you remind yourself that you are enough. There is nothing to prove, no image to maintain, no persona to perfect. The Buddha did not teach that you must become something you are not. He taught that you must wake up from what you are not, that your suffering comes from misidentification with the ego, the narrative, the fear, and that your liberation comes from remembering you are awareness itself, not your thoughts, not your past, not your title. You are the awareness that holds all things, the space within which experience arises, and in that space, everything is allowed, everything is forgiven, everything is embraced. This is not a philosophy, it is a practice, a moment-to-moment remembrance, a daily return to stillness, a devotion to what is real, what is true, what is kindness is the anchor. When the storm comes, and it will come, kindness is what grounds you. It does not stop the waves, but it keeps you from being pulled under. It reminds you who you are when you are tempted to forget. It brings you back to the breath, to the body, to the present, and it spreads like light in a dark room. It touches everyone around you. You may never know the impact of your gentle presence, your quiet patience, your soft word, but the world will feel it. And in a world that moves fast and wounds deep, your kindness might be the one thing that makes someone feel safe again. Do not underestimate that. The smallest act, done with great love, can ripple across lifetime. A single moment of non-reactivity, of forgiveness, of open-hearted listening. It matters more than you know, because what you cultivate within yourself becomes your legacy. Not what you accumulate, not what you achieve, but how you made others feel, how you chose love over fear, how you remained soft in a world that tried to harden you. That softness is not fragility, it is resilience, the kind that bends but does not break, that feels deeply and still stands, that mourns fully and still believes, that loves without armor, that shows up without pretense. This is the fruit of practice, not perfection, but presence, not enlightenment as a finish line, but as a way of walking, and with each step you become more honest, more open, more alive, not because you've reached some spiritual summit, but because you've come home, home to your breath, home to your heart, home to the quiet truth that you are already whole. The Buddha did not ask us to worship him, he asked us to wake up, to see with our own eyes, to test the truth through our own experience, and that is the invitation before you now. Not to believe blindly, but to live bravely, to live as though every moment matters, because it does, to speak as though words can heal, because they can, to act as though love is your truest nature, because it is, and when you forget, and you will forget, begin again, gently, kindly, without judgment, because every return is a victory, every breath a doorway, every moment an opportunity to live with more honesty, more grace, more love. So take that breath, take that step, not because you know where the path will lead, but because you trust it will take you deeper into what is real. The journey is not about becoming something else. It's about becoming fully, courageously, unapologetically you. Let that be your practice. Let that be your peace. Let that be your gift to the world. And when you walk this path long enough, not by distance, but by presence, you begin to see not just yourself, but others, with new eyes. The lens of separation begins to dissolve. You no longer see strangers, but reflection. Each person, no matter how distant or difficult, becomes a mirror showing you the contours of your own mind. You begin to understand that the anger of another is not about you. It is about their pain. Their impatience is their suffering spilling over. Their coldness is the armor they built when warmth once betrayed them. And so instead of reacting, you respond with awareness. Instead of closing, you open with compassion. Instead of judging, you see with tenderness. This shift is everything, because from this space, your life ceases to be a battleground. It becomes a sanctuary. Even amidst chaos, you carry a stillness so profound that nothing external can take it from you. You walk into conflict with clarity. You sit with grief without collapsing. You enter joy without grasping. You begin to trust life, not because it is predictable, but because you are anchored in something deeper than its storms. That anchor is not an idea. It is not a belief you recite. It is a way of being you return to, again and again, like breath, like silence, like truth. There will still be moments when you forget, when the old patterns take hold, when fear whispers its poison, when the weight of the world makes you want to turn away. But forgetting is not failure. It is invitation. Every time you lose your center is another opportunity to find it again, more gently, more honestly, more fully. This is how you grow, not in a straight line, but in spirals. You revisit the same places, but each time, you meet them with deeper awareness. You see more clearly. You react less. You hold yourself with more kindness. In doing so, you rewrite your life, not all at once, but moment by moment. Transformation does not thunder in. It arrives like dawn, slowly, silently, one ray at a time. And then one day, you realize that the darkness no longer terrifies you, not because it is gone, but because you are no longer afraid to sit with it. You no longer need to run. And in that stillness, something ancient awakens in you. A memory, not of the mind, but of the soul. The memory of who you were before fear, before the world taught you to guard your heart, before you believed that love must be earned. It is here, in the gentle remembrance of your own sacredness, that your power returns, not the kind of power that dominates or conquers, but the power that liberates, that uplifts, that heals, the power of presence, the power of truth, the power of love. And it begins so simply, with attention, with breath, with choosing, again and again to return to this moment, this body, this beating heart. You begin to understand that awakening is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. It is not about becoming more. It is about being more honest with what already is, about removing the layers of illusion, of ego, of pretense, and standing unarmored in your own light. This light is not pride. It is not self-importance. It is the quiet dignity of someone who has remembered their own worth, who no longer needs to shout to be heard or prove to be seen, who understands that their presence, when rooted in kindness, is enough. From this ground, you begin to live differently. You slow down. You listen more. You speak less, but with more depth. You hold space for others without needing to fix them. You offer love without needing to be loved in return. And in doing so, you become free. Because freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is knowing who you are when everything else falls away. It is acting, not from compulsion, but from clarity. It is living from the inside out, not the outside in. And this freedom has no price, no destination. It is not waiting at the end of some spiritual path. It is available now, in the breath you take with awareness, in the moment you choose to meet pain with presence, instead of panic, in the decision to be kind, even when it's not returned. That is the revolution, and it is silent. It will not be on the front page. No one may notice, but you will know. You will feel the shift in how you carry yourself, in how you meet the world, in how you return to yourself again and again. Like a prayer, you begin to walk with a certain grace, not because life is easier, but because you are softer, not because the noise has stopped, but because you have found stillness within it. This stillness is not emptiness. It is aliveness without agitation, awareness without attachment. It is the deep hum of being in harmony with what is. And in this harmony, suffering loses its grip, not because pain disappears, but because you no longer make it personal. You feel it fully, but you do not become it. You allow it, but you do not identify with it. And in that allowance it moves through you. It teaches, then leaves. The Buddha said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This is the truth of presence, that what you feel is not what defines you, that what arises does not have to stay, that you are not your anger, your fear, your doubt, but the space in which they arise, and to which they return. And when you see this clearly, not just intellectually, but in the marrow of your being, something breaks open, a kind of joy that is not dependent on circumstances, a joy that is fierce because it knows sorrow, a joy that does not cling because it trusts life to give and to take, again and again, without diminishing your wholeness. This joy is your birthright, not a fleeting high, but a steady flame, not a reward but a recognition that you are not broken, that you have never been broken, that everything you have walked through was not punishment but preparation for this moment, for this clarity, for this deep resounding yes to life. So say yes to yourself, to the parts you've hidden, to the stories you've outgrown, to the truth you're still learning to trust. Say yes to the path, not because it's easy, but because it's real, because it leads you home, not home as a place, home as presence, home as peace, home as the quiet knowing that no matter what unfolds, you are held, not by something outside you, but by the kindness you have cultivated within. The kindness that does not fail you, that does not abandon you, that does not demand perfection, but offers presence, again and again like breath. So let it rise. Let it rise like morning over the mountains of your doubt. Let it rise like a soft flame in the temple of your being. Let it rise not because the world is ready, but because you are. Let your life become the teaching. Let your heart become the refuge. Let your kindness become the revolution. And what is a revolution of the heart if not the daily choice to meet the world with tenderness, to walk through the ashes of your past, the weight of your wounds, and still reach out, open-handed, undefended, not because you were never hurt, but because you refused to let that hurt shape your final form. The Buddha did not teach us to erase our humanity. He showed us how to live in it fully, courageously, consciously. He did not point to a God above, but to the clarity within, to that sacred silence that lies beneath every thought, every fear, every story. He reminded us that the ultimate temple is not built of brick or gold, but of breath, of awareness, of kindness. And so we return again and again to that inner temple, not to escape the world, but to meet it differently. From stillness, not urgency. From compassion, not compulsion. From understanding, not assumption. This shift, subtle though it may seem, is seismic, because when you change the lens, the world transforms. You no longer see people as threats or obstacles, but as beings trying to make sense of their own pain. You no longer take offense as easily because you see more deeply. You sense the longing behind the anger, the insecurity behind the cruelty, the fear behind the arrogance. And in that vision, forgiveness flows, not as obligation, but as freedom. Freedom from the chains of being right. Freedom from the heavy burden of resentment. Freedom to choose love again, even when it is not deserved. Especially then, because love is not earned. It is remembered. It is not a transaction. It is a transmission. It flows when we stop blocking it with judgment, with fear, with the need to be above or beyond others. It flows when we realize we are not separate, never have been. This is not poetic metaphor. It is the deepest truth of interbeing, that every breath is shared, that your peace depends on mine, that there is no true healing unless we all rise. The Buddha called it dependent origination. We do not exist in isolation, but in sacred relationship with the earth, with others, with the unseen web of life. And when you live from this place, not as an idea but as your daily practice, everything changes. You begin to eat with reverence, to speak with intention, to walk as if your footprints mattered. You begin to ask, not just, what do I want, but what will this create? What will this ripple into? That is the mark of maturity. The shift from reaction to responsibility, from grasping to giving, from consumption to contribution. It does not require wealth. It does not require power. It requires presence. The simple decision to care about your thoughts, your words, your actions, not because someone is watching, but because you are. Because every moment you are planting seeds in your mind, in your relationships, in the world. And what you plant, you grow. So plant well. Plant seeds of patience in the face of delay. Plant seeds of gentleness when the old anger rises. Plant seeds of silence when the ego itches to prove itself. Plant seeds of listening when the world grows loud. These small, invisible acts, they matter more than you know, because they are not just for others. They are for you. Every time you choose kindness, you rewire your mind. You shift the tide. You reclaim your sovereignty. You are no longer a servant to mood, to circumstance, to old stories. You are a steward of peace, not perfect peace, Not untouchable bliss, but real, grounded, embodied peace, the kind that breathes through grief, that holds space for uncertainty, that stays kind even when it hurts, because hurt will come. You will lose people. You will make mistakes. You will be misunderstood. That is part of the path, but the path does not promise immunity. It promises intimacy with life as it is, with the full range of being. And that is enough, to be intimate with your own sorrow, not to wallow, but to witness, to feel the sacredness, even in sadness, to bow before the wisdom of impermanence, not with fear but with reverence. This too shall pass, not as a dismissal, but as a reminder. Nothing is final. The pain you feel today will one day be your teacher. The failure you fear may become your greatest liberation. The loss you cannot bear may open a space for a deeper love than you have ever known. Trust this, not blindly, but patiently. Let time work its alchemy. Let presence do its slow healing. Let kindness be your constant prayer, because in the end, it is not your accomplishments that will define you. It is not your titles or possessions or triumphs. It is the quality of your presence, the way people felt in your company, the love you gave without needing it back, the times you stayed soft in a world that tried to make you hard. That is what remains. That is what echoes. That is what builds a life not just of success, but of significance. And to build that life you must return again and again to the basics. The breath, the body, the stillness that sees. You do not need to chase more teachings. You do not need to memorize more quotes. You need to live one teaching fully, to embody one truth completely. That is enough, because when the truth is embodied it shines, without effort, without self-consciousness. Like the sun, it radiates simply because it is. Let your life be that light, not a spotlight, a lantern, something that others can walk by, something that says without words, peace is possible, healing is real, love is not gone, because it isn't. It's right here, in this breath, in this silence, in the small decision you make to show up today, not perfectly, but presently, not to impress, but to serve, not to win, but to witness. And this witnessing is sacred. It is the doorway to wisdom, because only when we stop rushing can we start seeing. Only when we stop grasping can we start receiving. Only when we stop pretending can we start belonging. You belong, not because you've proven yourself, not because you've earned it, but because you exist. And in your existence there is purpose, there is potential, there is peace, not at the end of a journey, but at the center of your being, waiting to be uncovered, remembered, lived. Let it be lived. Let your life become the answer to the questions the world has forgotten how to ask. Let your breath carry the wisdom of thousands of years. Let your heart beat not just for yourself, but for all beings. This is the way, and it is not far. It is not difficult. It is here, now, always. There is a silence beneath all things, beneath the noise of thought, beneath the tremble of fear, beneath the roar of desire. There is a silence. It does not beg to be heard. It does not seek approval. It is simply there, waiting, patient, eternal. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not gain something new. He let go of what was false. He did not conquer the world. He saw through it. He pierced the illusion not by effort, but by presence. And in that seeing, he remembered. The world was suffering, yes, but it was also awakening. And so are you. Not someday, not once you've fixed everything, not once you've become someone else, but now, in this quiet, in this breath, you are waking up. Slowly, surely, beautifully, and in that awakening, you are not becoming perfect. You are becoming whole. To be whole is not to be unbroken. It is to be fully here. With your cracks, with your scars, with your tenderness intact. It is to hold your sorrow without shame. To walk with your uncertainty without fear. To meet yourself, not as a project to be completed, but as a mystery to be honored. This is the path the Buddha laid before us. Not a ladder, but a circle. Not a race, but a rhythm. To come home to yourself again and again. To love more deeply each time. To soften each time. To become more real each time. And what is more real than love? Not the fleeting kind that depends on attention, on conditions, on return, but the love that simply is, that does not shout, that does not cling, that does not collapse, the love that holds, that listens, that endures. When the Buddha taught metta loving kindness, he was not teaching sentimentality. He was teaching liberation, because a heart that is free to love is a heart that is free. And when you love, not as an act, but as a presence, you dissolve the walls that separate you from life itself. You begin to see that the person in front of you is not other, that their joy is your joy, that their pain is your pain, that your awakening is bound to theirs. This is not philosophy, this is interbeing. And so you bow, not out of submission, but out of recognition, to the tree, to the wind, to the stranger, to the self you used to reject, to the moment as it is. You bow, not to worship, but to remember, because reverence is not obedience. It is attention soaked in gratitude. It is seeing the sacred in the ordinary. It is hearing the Dharma in the bird song, in the laughter, in the silence between words. The teachings are not hidden. They are everywhere. In the way the sunlight falls across your room, in the way your body softens when you let go, in the way the tears come when you finally stop pretending. These are not distractions from the path. They are the path. There is no enlightenment separate from this, no peace apart from this breath, this body, this being. And yes, the world will tempt you to forget, to chase, to compare, to harden. But you have a choice. In every moment, you have a choice to return, to soften, to listen, to live as though your heart mattered, as though your presence was medicine, as though kindness was enough. Because it is. It is not naive. It is necessary. In a world burning from fear, from greed, from division, your kindness is a flame of clarity. It does not demand attention. It simply shines, and in its warmth, others remember, others soften, others begin to shine too. This is how the world changes, not all at once, not from above, but from within, from hearts that have returned to themselves, from minds that have been trained to see clearly, from lives that move not from ego, but from essence. So let this be your offering, not perfection, but presence. Not certainty, but sincerity. Not control, but courage. The courage to be here, fully, gently, powerfully. And when the storms come, and they will, you will not be shaken. Because your roots run deep into the silence beneath all things. The silence that does not waver, that does not break, that knows who you are. Even when you forget, you are not just flesh and bone. You are not your thoughts, your titles, your traumas. You are the still point in a turning world. You are the space between inhale and exhale. You are the witness, the awareness, the love that holds it all. And in that knowing, you are free. Free to begin again. Free to speak with kindness when it's hardest. Free to forgive what the mind says is unforgivable. Free to live without armor. Free to die without fear. Because when you live this way, death is not the end. It is a continuation, a transformation. Like the leaf falling, not as a failure, but as fulfillment. You were never meant to last. You were meant to shine, to give, to learn, to love, and then to let go. The Buddha did not fear death, because he had truly lived, fully, freely, with eyes open and heart exposed. And you too can live this way. You already are. Every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you sit with pain without fleeing, every time you touch the world with tenderness, you are living the Dharma. You are walking the path. You are offering yourself as the teacher. So let this be your vow, not to reach some distant peak, but to stay awake, to stay soft, to stay true. Let your anger become understanding. Let your fear become faith. Let your wounds become wisdom. Let your breath be your prayer. And let your kindness be your legacy. Because in the end, when the final breath comes, no one will remember what you wore, what you owned, how many followed you. They will remember how you made them feel. They will remember the quiet strength of your gentleness, the way your presence made the room feel, the way your silence held space for truth, the way your love never asked to be repaid. That is what endures. That is what echoes across generations. So live with that in mind. Speak with that in your voice. Move with that in your step. Let it be known, not by your fame, but by your flame, that here walked someone who chose kindness. Here walked someone who bowed to life. Here walked someone who knew that peace was not out there to be found, but in here to be remembered. Let that be your teaching. Let that be your power. Let that be your freedom. Let that be